Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today, I decided to discuss something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, years to be a matter of fact. I like movies, love movies. I mean, a lot of people love movies. I love going to a theater to see a new movie. I like being able to sit down and watch a movie I've never seen before, or maybe a movie that I have seen before, but trying to see if there's anything in it that I missed the first time around, because there's a lot of movies that are like that. However, I agree with many people that there's some movies that you should not show to little kids, or even some people that are just right below the age of 18. I mean, it's like if you're 17 years old, there's still some movies that you shouldn't see. And obviously, there are legal cases that are put into effect to keep kids under the age of 18 from seeing certain movies. And today I'm referring to the one that is in place for America, the Motion Picture Association of America. And personally, I think that they're a very outdated system. So let's talk about their rating system and why I think that it doesn't work anymore. They have 5 ratings that are used. There's general audiences, parental guidance suggested, parents strongly cautioned, restricted, and no one 17 and under admitted, which are all shortened to G, PG, PG-13, R, and NC-17. And what do each of these ratings imply? The first one, general audiences, implies that it's not for everyone, not absolutely everyone, but general audiences. And usually, if they're like really, really little kids, they should be fine if they're a typical little kid. PG should imply that if the kid is relatively young or relatively immature, then having a parent around should be a good idea. It's like, if it's a little too much, take the kid out of the theater and you'll be fine. PG-13 should imply that if the kid's under the age of 13, then it's probably a movie that may not be for them. There might be something in this movie that is just too much for someone under the age of 13. R should imply that you have to be an adult to see it. However, legally, if you're under the age of 17, then you can still see it if you have a parent or guardian with you. But this is a huge risk for the parent or guardian, depending on the movie. And NC-17 should mean that you absolutely have to be an adult. 18 and over, no, without a doubt. You can't even legally see the movie without being over the age of 18. So with those ratings in mind, what's my problem? There's a huge issue I have with just G and PG, to where in modern times there really is no consistency with a lot of movies. There's tend to be a lot of movies that you see that are rated G, or at least G movies aren't really that common anymore. And there's a lot of them that are rated G, which was like, shouldn't it have been PG? Or shouldn't there be a lot of PG rated movies that should have been rated G? Or worse, shouldn't there be some PG-rated movies that should have been rated PG-13? Or are there really some PG-13 movies that should have been rated PG? Or R? Or there are rated movies that should have been rated PG-13? Or at least something like that. The biggest issue with this is the NC-17 rating. There are rarely any films with that rating, because most of the time when they're given that rating, the studio will re-edit the film to get an R rating, because for some reason theaters hate the NC-17 rating and marketing studios hate the NC-17 rating. Like, they pretty much view NC-17 as the same level as pornographic movies are seen, which I hate that, because unlike pornographic films, NC-17 movies just like implies like, okay, just don't have anyone under the age of 18, but it's fine otherwise. And there's a lot of R-rated movies that should have been rated NC-17 as well. And like I said, there's a huge lack of consistency. When it comes to PG-rated movies, I can name a few that I think should have been PG-13. Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, Marley and Me, Life of Pi, Son of the Mask, but that's filmed so awful anyway. And they're just over PG movies to where I was like, shouldn't have just been G? Why is Frozen PG? I mean, it's like, wouldn't that been fine with a G rating? I don't know. So there's a lot of inconsistency, and there's also a lot of parents obviously don't understand the difference between G and PG. Like, they get PG-13 just fine, but yeah. I mean, I know there's some parents that they won't even allow their kid under the age of 13 to see a PG-13 movie whatsoever. Like, saying, like, if you're under the age, like, you got a couple of years before you're allowed. The same thing goes with R, I suppose. Like, there are the very strict parents, but then there are parents that don't care, and these really little kids would see an R-rated movie that is really, really extreme, which is not a good idea. I'm not a pro-censorship person. I do not believe that something that's aimed at adults is not meant for anybody. I'm not a Christian conservative. Like, those people hate adult-rated movies unless it's one of those movies that has a fantastic point, like 12 Years a Slave, where it's based off of a true story and it's so well made that you have to recommend it, even if it is very incredibly brutal. Those are the only types of movies that Christian conservatives like, from what I can see. The extreme ones, at least. But that's a video for a different day. Back to what I think that all movies deserve to be released, unless they do something illegal. I mean, I don't even want to go there. But back to the movie rating system. I believe that there should be updates done to this. Like, make the NC-17 rating, make it a profitable rating, or switch it out with something else. I mean, there's a lot of R-rated movies that should be rated NC-17. I mean, I personally think that I've seen movies that should be NC-17. Any of Quentin Tarantino's movies. Like, why do those get away with R ratings? I mean, I love Pulp Fiction. I'd love to see more of his movies, but they're strictly for adults. And there are a good number of movies that were originally rated NC-17, but then when they were re-rated for R, people who watched them was like, there really was no difference. I mean, it's still too much. So, what's my idea? Well, I think that the best alternative to this MPAA rating system is using a website called Common Sense Media. I don't use it that much anymore because I don't have kids and I'm 18. The only time I use it is if I'm thinking of my 17-year-old brother. But to be fair, his 18th birthday is coming up in February, end of February, so I don't have to worry about that once he turns 18. Like, I just check the site to make sure that it's not an 18-plus movie, and that's how the site works. They give a recommended age for what they think is appropriate. Like, they'll say, like, 5+ for, like, a G-rated movie, I guess. Or maybe 9+ for a typical PG movie. And it obviously depends on the movie. But there is a huge stigma when it comes to movies because according to Common Sense Media, they think that the youngest that a kid could be when watching a movie is 2 years old. Which makes sense. Most kids learn English at 2 years old, or any language that they speak. And if they can comprehend speech, they're old enough to watch movies or stuff. Or not. There are plenty of parents that show babies who can't talk, just baby shows, just thinking that just because it's movement, you can just get away with it. But it's like, or maybe they try to use it to try to get the kids to learn rather than interacting with them like you should. So, Common Sense Media uses their age rating system, and I'm thinking that the best form of adapting a different rating system is to use a number system and not this other type of system. And use 2 number systems. One number system is like this age and younger, you can't get into the theater. You just can't. And then you have a second rating where it's like you have to have a parent or a guardian with you to see the movie. And then you have a third rating to where it's like you're completely fine. You can see this movie unaccompanied. And this is what Common Sense Media used to do. Before they got rid of it, they had a red bar where it's like, don't have your kids see this movie. A yellow bar is like, take a chance. You can watch this with your kid, or watch the movie first and then have it see it. And then the green is like, it's fine, let them watch it. To be honest, the best form of judgment as a parent is to watch it yourself first and then put it on your list. Like, make your own personal judgments, like, okay, my kid should be this old when watching it. And yeah. But when it comes to legal system, it'd be a great idea to have the MPAA systems abolished and replaced with a number system that's completely free of range. Like, you could give a movie, it's like no one under the age of 5 can see it, and from 5 to like 9, it has to be accompanied by a parent. That could be a typical rating system. And then you can have a, like, the overall rating system would be is like this age plus would be fine. There's some movies where, of course, you'd have 18 plus only, but that's perfectly fine. And I think that Common Sense Media is a fantastic alternative website source that you can use before anything changes. They've been around for a while. They have a great system for how they rate movies depending on content for kids. I disagree with many of their reviews, like for content quality, because they review all movies and shows on a 5-star system. And there's many things I've seen from their reviews I disagree with personally. Like, I believe there's a lot of shows they review that they only like watch like a couple episodes and they like try to give a number system to an entire show. I don't think that works at all. I believe that shows can get good, better, or worse over time. And sometimes with some shows, like, there's like in the very, very middle could be the very best of it, or the very beginning could be the very best, or it starts out okay but then it gets a lot better. I've heard that about some shows. I don't think you can review an entire show with a simple number system. You have to talk about bits and pieces of it, because that's how a lot of shows can work. But that's a detour. And TV systems have their own way of going about how they review television shows for different networks, but that's a different video for another day. It really does depend on the channel and the standards of how they air stuff. I mean, I've heard that HBO, if you get your show on HBO, you can get away with literally anything, I've heard. I don't think there's anything that you are not allowed to do, unless it's like real sex. I think that's the only thing you can't do on HBO. Or maybe someone will prove me wrong. I'd be happy for you to prove me wrong on pretty much anything, because if you prove me wrong, it means that I'm no longer in ignorance. Some people say ignorance is bliss, but there are other times to where you just need to accept the harsh truth. That's enough rambling. Good night, everyone.